Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Meniere's Muse podcast. My name is Heather, and I was diagnosed with Meniere's disease and vestibular migraine in 2017 and found myself craving connection with other warriors and found the more warriors I met, the more I was inspired and that my hope for healing came to life. I created this podcast to share stories of vestibular warriors regardless of their diagnosis or where they are in their journey, to give hope so no one feels alone. If this podcast may benefit you or someone in your life, please forward this to them and make sure you hit the subscribe button. If you know someone with an inspiring story, please find my contact information below. We all have a story. Let yours inspire others. Today my guest is Emma. She's a bright light in the vestibular community. Currently 33 years old and living in Sheffield in the UK. She's the founder of Emma Leigh Yoga, where she teaches supportive and gentle yoga for people looking to support their mental and physical wellness. Her classes are perfect if you are a beginner, are struggling with stress, anxiety, or chronic illness, or are simply looking for a calmer, slower flow. She is also a caring and supportive massage therapist. Her focus is on promoting and providing people with a reset, rest, and healing through her therapies and classes. Emma has experienced chronic vestibular migraine for almost 5 years now and is no stranger to the vestibular world. She has experienced a lot over the past 5 years, and one of her big passions is to share her story and chronic illness journey, to show others that recovery is possible, and so are the opportunities to achieve what you want in life. Please welcome Emma.
So many people reached out to me and asked, have you had Emma on yet? And I'm like, no, but let's work on that. So I'm
amazing.
so happy.
Oh no, I'm really honored that people have put my name forwards for that. That's so kind.
Yes. So I know there's so many questions I have for you. I know that you're a yoga teacher and a massage therapist, but if you could share a little bit about your story, and then we'll dive into what you have going on now.
Yeah, so I'm coming up to year 5 of vestibular migraine. So that is my kind of vestibular diagnosis as it stands. But there's been mentionings of things like triple PD and stuff along the way, but I think vestibular migraine is the thing that makes the most sense to me in terms of symptoms and what's helped me and stuff like that. So I've had that for coming up to 5 years now. I'm 33, and so that means I kind of got my symptoms in my late 20s, which I know from speaking to a lot of other women seems to be a bit of a trend, that kind of towards late 20s, early 30s is kind of a bit of a trigger. And yeah, so I used to be a school teacher. So that's what I was doing when the symptoms sort of hit me. So I think, like a lot of other people, was in a very kind of stressful phase of my life. I was burning the candle at both ends, doing a lot, put my body under a lot of pressure, and something had to give, basically, and that's when the vestibular stuff started. So it wasn't the biggest surprise in the world that something happened, because I knew my body was struggling. I just wasn't prepared for the journey that the vestibular disorder can take.
I don't think any of us are.
No, definitely not. And you have that kind of, oh my gosh, what is going on with me, which I'm sure we'll dig into on this podcast soon. But yeah, so then I left teaching. I was signed off work for a little while, left teaching, started working in an office job, which is in education. So it kind of felt like it was still linked, but they were super supportive of my well-being and stuff, so it allowed me to get back into work. And then I started exploring the yoga and the massage, and then that's kind of become my main passion, and what I'm working towards now is doing that pretty much full time. So that is kind of me in a nutshell.
But yeah. Were you practicing yoga prior to your symptoms?
Yeah, so I'd started doing it when I was a teacher. So I was always into my fitness and keeping myself healthy and stuff, but it had always been very, very physical, high energy, high intensity kind of exercise. And it was just a class that was on the timetable at my local gym. And I kind of did it not really thinking, not really understanding much about it. And it was a very weird thing when I first attended my first ever class. I was like, this is different. This is not what I'm used to, going very slow and being very mindful. But that was kind of my introduction to it. And then it kind of, I've kind of been in and out of it over the years. And then whenever I've had like a period of stress, whether it's been health wise or during COVID lockdown, it's something that's felt very accessible to me. Even when I'm having a bad vestibular day, it's something that feels very accessible. So I did have a yoga practice before, but it wasn't until I did my teacher training that I was like, oh, this is why it's so helpful for me, because you learn about the science of it and why it's so helpful for the body and the mind. So yeah.
That is so interesting. I would love to dive in a little bit more on that and on a personal level as far as learning, because I know those certain poses help me so much. I just don't understand why. So that is awesome.
Yeah.
And you are giving online yoga classes right now for the vestibular community, or is it just open general?
So it's open kind of general, but all of my classes they're very slow flow. So I intentionally make my classes slow so that people, whether they have dizziness or not, have time to get into a position, find their balance or find their kind of moment, and then check that their body is where it should be. And I think whether you have dizziness or whether you're just somebody who wants to practice yoga, I think it's really beneficial moving at a slower pace, because otherwise there are fast-paced classes out there, and for people that want that sort of thing, they're fantastic, but I find that generally you get the most benefit from it, physically and mentally, if you do kind of slow it down, and then that allows me to integrate people that do have dizziness and balance, because it gives them that time and space to kind of build confidence and get themselves in a position where they feel better, kind of maybe putting their head upside down over time.
Was that difficult for you when you first began?
Yeah, so I had to kind of develop a yoga practice which allowed me to put my head upside down, which I've just kind of had to experiment over time, with what works for me. But I've kind of picked up some little tips and tricks that really help me, like closing my eyes, for example. If I'm coming out of a forward fold, I find if I keep my eyes closed, keep them closed while I'm stood up, let everything settle, and then slowly open them again, it's like it just gives the body time to catch up. So there's little tips and tricks that I've picked up along the way for my own practice that I just include as standard in my normal classes.
So interesting. When your vestibular symptoms came on, what were you experiencing?
So the initial symptom was like the vertigo and the balance issues, and it wasn't something that was brand new to me. I'd had little bursts of it in the past, but kind of just it went away and then it came back and it went away, so it didn't feel like anything kind of that I was worried about. But that was the first thing that kind of hit me. And then it was this feeling of like, whatever people describe it as, whether it's derealization, the spaced out feeling, I think sometimes people call it Alice in Wonderland syndrome, where your body feels weird and your vision doesn't feel real. That was the biggest one. The visual stuff, which I think anything to do with your sight is really, really scary. Because if you can't see properly, you don't feel safe anymore. And I think that was the biggest problem for me at the start, was that I was like, I'm not seeing things right. And I couldn't explain to people what I meant by that. So yeah, those were my main two symptoms that hit me at the start.
So it's a really hard one. I hear it a lot in the vestibular community, and with a lot of people that were highly active prior to.
Mm-hmm.
A couple personal trainers, Amy Shockett. I don't know if you're familiar with her.
Yes. Yeah, me and Amy, I've never met her, but we do.
Right. One of her biggest ones,
yeah,
was the derealization, and I know that she posted online videos when she was experiencing that, and it's heartbreaking, to have that feeling and that sensation. What is the biggest challenge that you have today as far as symptoms?
Yeah, I think that's my one symptom that never truly, I can say that I've never really had a proper break from it. All my other symptoms, and I think from speaking to other people like Amy, we've sort of discussed that other symptoms are up and down, and I can have periods of time where I don't have any vertigo or balance issues, but the derealization, it's just lingering, and some days it's more intense and some days it's more manageable, but it's always there. And I think that it's one of the most debilitating and the hardest to describe and understand. But I think it's one of the hardest to get rid of. So I think that is my most trouble. It doesn't really affect what I do, it affects how I feel. You
Sure.
know, it makes me feel like I'm not here, which obviously then
Like you're
affects my
out of
mood.
body
And
almost.
yeah, so I can, you know, be walking as normal, I can physically do everything, but mentally it's a struggle feeling like you're not on the planet.
Right, right. I don't know that I've actually had the derealization. I have had it where I just feel off and like I'm just going through the motions. I don't know if that's,
Hmm.
but I see my body going through the motions. I just don't, yeah, I can't explain it at all. It's kind of that happened at the beginning of my journey as well.
Yeah, I think people describe it in different ways, but I think we're all kind of alluding to a similar sensation. But
Right.
I remember trying to describe it to doctors at the start, and I just didn't have the words for it. I was like, I said to them, I feel like I'm 2D. And they were like, what do you mean you feel like you're 2D? And I was like, I don't know how else to describe this. I said, it's
Right.
like I'm drunk, but I'm not, because I'm not drunk. It was so hard
Right.
to describe. So when I found the vestibular community and people were describing it in these different ways, I was like, oh, this is how I can describe it basically.
Right. Wow. How did your family react to this? I mean, were there any changes in the dynamics of your family and friends?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing was just the lack of understanding, and that was not through any fault of their own. It was
Right.
because I didn't know what was going on. So for
Yeah.
them it was so frustrating, particularly with my parents, because my parents are amazing and they will do anything to support me, but they were like, how can we help you? And I was like, just make it go away. And they were like,
You know,
we can't do that. So they were, you know, driving me to countless appointments. I'm sure everybody's been through it, but you know, chiropractors, osteopaths, physios, taking me here, there, and everywhere. So it definitely, particularly with my immediate family, was a really stressful time, because their, you know, healthy 28-year-old daughter who was doing everything, gym, work, friends, partner, all of that, all of a sudden I was back home and I was a shell of a person. So for them, it must have been so difficult to see me in that way. So for that first sort of 6 months, it was such a struggle, particularly for my family. I think to see me, they were really worried about me physically and mentally, because you go to a really dark place when you first have a vestibular diagnosis. So yeah, it certainly put a lot of pressure, I think, in that way.
I know you mentioned being in that dark place. I think a lot of us, a lot of us can relate to that. And it's looking back, it's hard to believe that I was actually there. But I
Mm.
will not cry. I will not cry. But how did you pull yourself out of that? What was the game changer for you?
I mean, I was asked this recently for so I'm part of the, you know, the Life Rebalanced
Yes, I
Chronicles.
know. Yes.
Yeah, so I'm doing that, and I think it wasn't until I spoke to Kimberly that I kind of realized what it was that was my kind of turning point.
Right.
And I was sort of saying that it was actually, it wasn't, you know, when I started feeling better, it was when I started doing more, which then led to me feeling better. So it was like, you know, okay, I'm going to go out for a meal with my friends and it's going to be so uncomfortable, but I'm just going to do it.
You
Or
pushed
I'm going to
yourself.
go, yeah, exactly. Knowing that, I think by that point, I knew that nothing terrible was going to happen as a result of the symptoms. Whereas at first, I thought I was dying. You know, you're like, well, I can't go out because what if I pass out, or what if I something happens and it, you know, it makes it worse. But I think by that point, I knew, well, it's not going to make it any worse. So let's just give this a go. And as soon as I started doing that, I suddenly felt, well, I've managed that. I've just survived that. I've done that thing. Nothing awful happened. It's not made it worse. It's not made it better. So I think then little by little, I just kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And then that's just carried on for the last 5 years, to the point where I can't actually believe my life now and how far I've come. So yeah, I'd say it's the biggest thing is taking the steps and taking the risks that still feel within your comfort zone, but are just that little bit outside of your comfort zone, if
Teeny
that
bit.
makes sense.
Absolutely. I hear a
Yeah.
lot of people that reach out and they're like, well, how do you get past that mind, that negative mind space where what if this happens? What if I fall? What if I become dizzy? Going out to lunch and things like that. And it's tough, but you really have to say, okay, what if? And move and take that baby step
Mhm.
at the
Yeah, I definitely think it was hard at first, and there was a lot of occasions where I would go out and then I'd be on the phone to my mum outside going, I can't do this,
yeah.
this is too hard, and she'd have to calm me down and talk me round. But I think the biggest thing that helped me was having a physical toolkit with me. So in my bag I'd always have a snack, a bottle of water, a pair of sunglasses, a pair of blue light blocking glasses, a cap. Just having those things, even if they never got touched, I was like, I have another layer of things. So if I was out, I'm starting to get a bit dizzy, sunglasses go on, a little
Yeah.
bit dizzier, baseball cap goes on. So
Yeah.
I had like this like layer of things that I could add, knowing that if I was struggling, I could be like, right, well, let's add a layer of protection for myself here. But then I just think knowing that I could step away from a situation was helpful as well. Like my friends knew that I wasn't very well, so if I had to leave early, they would be really understanding about that. So I think going to do things with the right people that understand, and then having your personal help kit, your personal toolkit, are my two biggest tips, I think, for getting back out there.
I love that. I think being prepared is huge, and having those people you do trust in is so important. Um,
Yeah.
I know the community, they really focus on the friends that disappear after
Hmm.
these symptoms come on, but we really have to focus on people that are there and trusting that they'll
Hmm.
be there for us if those things happen. But I do love that you mentioned the toolkit and having that, because I think a lot of us forget about that. Okay, we have it here
Yeah.
at the house, but yes, take it with you and have that as a
Hmm.
security. I love that. I love it, love it.
Yeah.
So the derealization, the fatigue, the vertigo, and then the visual issues. Do you still suffer with, I know the derealization you still have from time to time. Do you still have those today?
Yeah, so I would say I find it's a really fine line, and I think a lot of people probably feel like this. You don't know whether you've got a lot better or whether you've just got used to it. There's like I imagine it's the same for people that have chronic pain. Over time, you get used to feeling that certain level of pain, I imagine. So you're like, am I getting better or am I just getting used to feeling a certain way? Because the body adapts so fast
Yes.
that I'm like, have I got the same symptoms that I had 3 years ago, or am I just used to feeling like this so it doesn't panic me as much? But yeah, I do still have daily symptoms every single day. What I've found is the more I don't like to use the word distract because it makes it sound like I'm not. That sounds negative, but I
Mhm.
think what I do is focus my attention on something that brings me joy and happiness, and in doing that, it allows the symptoms to kind of fade to the back of my mind.
Yes.
Um, yeah, so I get daily symptoms, but they are manageable to the point where I live pretty much a normal quality of life. So, yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, I find that when we sit there and focus on the symptoms so much, I find that they sometimes amp up. But when we do, like you said, mention focus on something else, something that brings you joy, or something outside of yourself, it does
Hmm.
help. But sometimes I forget that I have symptoms, and I do have them
Hmm.
daily. But
Yeah,
so
yeah, same. Yeah.
and I know I was reading some things you sent me that you believe in reset, rest, and healing through the journey, right? Can you explain to me
Yeah.
what healing means to you? Because it means something different for everybody.
Yeah, I think for me the healing it's more of a mental thing. I think for me with the healing it's finding, it's understanding myself, it's accepting, you know, what's going on for me mentally, it's understanding why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling, it's improving myself, my attitudes, the way I deal with life, and I find that that then helps you heal the physical side of things. And I think particularly with the yoga and massage, that helps you to find some healing as well, and I think then that allows you to find the physical healing. So I love the word healing rather than kind of recovery or like cure or something like that, because you can say that you're healing. You can say that, and it's a really it feels like a positive thing to say that I am currently healing. So I love the idea of bringing that into my yoga and into my massage, because the body it does a lot of self-healing. And there are so many things that you can do to bring that physical healing about. But I think for me, yeah, it's the mental healing. I think that is the most important thing for me.
And I find that the word healing, like you said, is on a positive note. I think it's a continuous thing. It's always happening.
Yeah.
And the more positive we put in, and the better we treat our body and learn to treat our body. Because I don't know about you, but prior to, I was doing a lot of HIIT exercises and just really hardcore stuff. And on top of everything else, and just not listening to what my body wanted. And I found with yoga, not only did it teach me to be more present and more intentional with my moves, it also it's such a workout. I mean, there are different levels, like you said, you're more slow flow, but I do challenge myself on occasion. And even with the slow flow, I find I'm sweating, and I'm feeling just not so much soreness, but like I am working out. So I enjoy that very much. Do love that.
Yeah, I mean, I think actually sometimes it can be harder with the slow flow because you are holding positions for longer. So your muscles are firing up. So if you're doing, I don't know, say a warrior two, and you're kind of got your arms out and your front legs bent, and you're holding that for a few breaths, to hold your arms up like that, even in itself, is really quite difficult. So I think they're hard in different ways, because I think the faster flows, it's more the energetic and keeping your momentum going there. But with the slower flows, it's the strength, and to actually hold a pose for a few seconds, it can be really difficult. So I think just because the class is slower, it can still be quite challenging for the body, which I think is why it's good for vestibular patients, because you're still strengthening the body and giving it some physical activity, but it's not going to make you feel like your head's spinning and like you're having to jump around and stuff. So that's why I really love the slow flow.
I love that too. The static movement is so good. And I think people get intimidated by trying yoga. And the thing is that if you're not comfortable in a pose, and please tell me if I'm wrong, because I'm not a teacher, but I've experienced a lot since 2016, because I found yoga there as so beneficial, that if you're not comfortable in a pose, then you go down to a pose that you are comfortable in until you can come out of that pose to try something else. So it's not it's not so regimented that you can't adjust. No.
Yeah, I think that's what I love about yoga, is that there's absolutely zero pressure to do things in the class. If there's any pressure, it's what people put on themselves of, I've got to do this pose. And I work really hard in my kind of explanations in my classes to be like, your pose is not going to be the same as your next door neighbor's pose. It's, yoga's not competitive, is something that I say a lot in classes, because I think every other physical activity, it feels very competitive, like you've got to do it better than somebody else. And actually in yoga, it's actually, in most classes from most teachers, they'll say things like, if you need to have a break at any time, go into a child's pose, go into a seated position. And that's in yoga, it's one of the few places where that's actually encouraged. Whereas if you went to another exercise type class, I remember when I used to go to my high intensity ones, it'd be like, come on, keep going, don't stop.
Right.
So I love that you can have those breaks.
Right. Yeah, that's so true. That's awesome. And how long are your classes online?
So I tend to do 45 minutes. I sometimes do hour-long ones. When I did some specific dizzy ones, I did them for 30 minutes. But what I do with my online classes is I record them all. So I do them via Zoom, but I record them so that if people aren't feeling up to it on one day, if they want to do it, stop and start it, then that's completely up to them. So it kind of gives you that flexibility. And I think doing something from home is like the first step because going to a yoga class, you're like, oh, people are going to be there. What if I was to wobble? What if I was to fall over? Yeah. So being in your own home, you can, have a wall next to you, you can have cushions around, you can make it as comfortable and safe as you feel like it needs to be, and then take it at your own pace. If you need to have a moment, you don't have to worry that other people in the class are still going, because you're probably going to have your camera off if you're not feeling that confident. So
Right.
I think online stuff is really, really helpful for when you're kind of first putting yourself back out there.
Right. Absolutely. I think it's a great idea. And that the fact that it's recorded, so if you're having a bad day, you can push it off for a while until you're feeling better.
Yeah, definitely.
So you're doing Life Rebalanced Chronicles season 2.
Yeah.
Did you know that I'm part of that too?
No, well, actually, I think when I spoke to Kimberly, I think she mentioned some names to me, but I couldn't remember which name she'd mentioned. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, amazing.
I know. It's such a great group of people. I
Oh,
mean,
fab.
the first group, gosh, it was such an emotional season. And now
Yeah.
they're flipping it and doing it a little bit different. I guess each warrior will have their own month or something. I guess I'm
Yeah.
not really sure, but I guess it's going to start dropping next month, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think I'm just currently getting my B-roll stuff sorted. But no, I think it's amazing. I think it's such a great idea, and I really wish that when I first started about my vestibular journey that something like this was available, because I think it would have been like such a weight off my shoulders,
I
realizing that there's
know. I
all
know that
these
we could
people that
breathe.
understand.
Yes.
Yeah.
You can see that, okay, we're gonna make it through this by watching. Yes. What we're
Yes.
talking about is the Life Rebalance docuseries, the Life Rebalance Chronicles docuseries.
Yeah.
Did I say that right? And then
Yeah, I think so.
we are part of season 2 with between us and 7 other warriors, and they'll be sharing that. I believe they start it next month, so be sure to watch out for that. But it's
Yeah.
and I noticed that it's on the Disorder channel. On did you know that?
No, I didn't.
I just found it here in the States on the Roku. If you go through and you can download certain channels like
Okay.
Peacock or Netflix and things like that. If you pop
Yeah.
in the Disorder channel, there is Life Rebalance Chronicle docuseries.
Oh, no way. That's so
Yes, it
cool.
is really cool.
That's
So,
amazing.
and Kimberly is just wonderful. I mean, she just
Oh,
makes it so
amazing.
easy. Yeah. Well, I can't
Yeah.
wait to see your how everything comes together. They sent me mine last week and I was like blown away. So
Oh, no way. Oh, I can't wait to see yours, because I think it's such an insight, isn't it, into like your everyday life. And I think that's what makes it so powerful, because you're getting more than just, because I've done like little update videos and post them on YouTube, but it goes deeper than that. And I think
oh,
that's what's going to make it so special.
so much deeper. And they're so good at it. And they're just the emotion that they
Hmm.
capture. And yeah, it's whew, it's stirring. I'll tell
Yeah,
you that.
for sure.
Oh goodness. What is the biggest challenge that you have today?
So my biggest challenge, and it is self-inflicted, unfortunately, is that I am a very busy person. So I thrive off doing a lot.
Oh goodness.
And
Emma.
I'm not very good. I know. So I'm not very good at slowing down and saying no to opportunities when they come up. And I love saying yes to everything.
Do
I
you
don't
find
want
you
to
have
miss
more
anything.
symptoms?
Yeah, so I know when I'm pushing my body to that kind of point, and that's when I go, okay, I need to have a day of rest. And so I normally catch myself just as I'm going to that point, and I pull myself back in. So my biggest challenge is reminding myself to slow down. Basically, I need to practice what I preach, because I tell people in my yoga classes and massage that they need to rest and slow down, and then I'm doing
It's
7
hard.
million things at once.
It's hard because I'm sure
Yeah.
in your previous life you were like that too, prior to
Hmm.
mine too. I was just busy, 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 busy. No white space on my
Hmm.
calendar, but I
Yeah.
love the white space. And now today,
Yeah.
that's what fuels me up. So I hope you find your way
Yeah.
there.
And well, I realized recently that I was doing so much, and decided that I was going to block out a whole week in April where I did no yoga, no massage, and I've actually booked myself a little solo holiday to Spain. So I'm going to go by myself, take some books, and that's going to be my proper chance to
Good.
kind of pause and reflect. So that is like my big rest coming up soon.
Awesome. Will you be pulling off social media for that week also?
I don't know.
It's
That's
hard, but I
hard.
will
I
tell
don't
you,
know
it
whether,
feels
yeah,
it's uncomfortable, but it really, after the third day, you're like, oh, okay, I needed this. Needed this.
yeah. I
It's
probably
okay to
should
unplug.
actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. It feels, I think when you do like with my like kind of the yoga and stuff being so like online, I feel like I like keeping that up to date, but I definitely think if I'm not teaching and I don't need to like, don't need to promote my classes and keep people updated, it's not as I can probably step away from it. So
Hey,
probably a
they
good
have
reminder for me to step
we'll have to
away.
talk. It was really hard at first, especially after starting the podcast, saying, okay, I need time. Like this past week
Yeah.
with Vita Live, there was so
Hmm.
much information coming in. I was spent, my symptoms amped up, and I just had to step away because it was just, as
Hmm.
much as I wanted to learn, it was just so much coming in. I just had to step away. I don't
Yeah.
know if you watched any of it.
I haven't, no, and I keep seeing it on people's stories on my Instagram, and I keep thinking I need to watch some of this stuff.
Really good.
But I think I miss some of it because of the time difference. I think
Mhm.
is tends to be what happens sometimes. But yeah, no, I think it's something I need to add to my never ending list. I'm like, yeah, I need to watch those.
Well, I'm gonna check up on you and see if if you do unplug in April. I'm
Oh yeah, please
gonna be
hold
on
me
you.
accountable.
I will. Oh goodness. So what besides the docu-series, do you have anything else coming up?
I'm definitely planning on doing a lot more online for like my yoga and vestibular stuff. And I'm due to record like a personal update for YouTube as well, because the last time I did one was about a year ago. So I feel like it would be a good time for me to do like a personal update on where I was in terms of last year.
Do you have a YouTube channel too?
I do, yeah. It's not got a lot on it at the moment,
Okay.
but it's just Emma Leigh Yoga. So
Okay.
um yeah, I've uploaded a few. There's a few Dizzy yoga classes on there as well that are like Dizzy friendly. If anybody
Okay.
wants to have a go at those. But yeah, I feel like it's been a year since I last recorded one, and I'm about to have Botox injections for the vestibular migraine. So that would be a good thing for me to kind of report back on, I think, for people who are maybe considering that as an option.
Have you done that before?
I haven't. No, it's been, I mean, in England, you have to be on like because we have the NHS, we have to be on quite a big wait list.
Oh wow.
So I've been on the waiting list, I think about a year, like now. So it takes a while. You can go private, but it's so expensive that
I
if
can
it
imagine.
works, I'd have to keep paying for it myself, and then I just wouldn't be able to afford to do that.
Oh my goodness. So because you're considering Botox, are you having painful migraines with the vestibular migraines? My
Um,
migraines
I don't.
are silent. They don't really have pain. I just have weird symptoms.
Yeah, I sometimes get pain. Like actually today, I had a migraine with aura, and I get those every now and again. um, which I think is hopefully what the Botox will help with as well, because there's nothing worse than you already feel spaced out and off balance. Throw in some blurred vision,
Right. On top of
and
that.
you've got yourself the worst day ever. So what's happened for me today is yeah, so we've had a whole load of snow kind of quite unexpectedly overnight. And then I have gone out today for a walk on my lunch break. And then as I was walking back, I started getting blurred vision. And I think what's happened is the snow, the white, has been too much for my eyes. And it's like triggered an actual migraine with aura. So I was like, oh. But it always reminds me of like, how far I've come, because when I get those on top of everything else, I think, wow, this is how I used to feel a lot of the time, before, and it really is debilitating.
Right.
So luckily it doesn't last too long. And I know how to nip it in the bud now, but it's a bit more frustrating than anything. But but yeah, it's weird how migraine works, isn't it?
It is. Now, were you a migraine sufferer prior to your vestibular symptoms?
Yeah, so I've had
So was
migraine with
I.
aura since I was a teenager. So I've got a migraine brain. But when the vestibular stuff started, I never ever associated it with migraine, and neither did my doctors for a long time until I found out about vestibular migraine and brought it to them and was like, "Well, I found out about this thing, and it feels like it might be what I'm going through." So
Right.
yeah, it's a weird one.
Do you have nutritional triggers, do you find?
Yes. Do I always listen to them? No.
No, I don't
At
either.
the start, I was very strict. And then every time I eat something, there's always that angel and devil on my shoulder. And I've
Yes.
got to the point now where, for example, if it's Christmas, it's my birthday at Christmas as well. So, there's a big piece of birthday cake, and I'm like, if I eat this cake, I know I'm probably going to be paying for it. But do I want to miss out on the experience of having a piece of birthday cake on my birthday? No.
Yeah.
So I've kind of picked my battle. So I know what my triggers are. Caffeine's a big one, processed food. Um, I am already vegan, but I think before that, I think dairy was a big trigger for me as well. But yeah, I'm aware of my triggers, but I have to weigh it up every time I'm tempted to have something. I'm like, basically, I think to myself, have I got anything that I want to be fully alert for tomorrow, or can I afford to have a bit of a vestibular hangover, as it were,
Yes.
in the morning? I kind of have to. It's a bit of a game, isn't it, to kind of figure out in your head of like, if I do this now, can I cope if I struggle then tomorrow morning? So yeah,
Yeah. Do
it's a
the same
difficult one,
thing.
food. Yeah. You have
Balance.
to work it all
Okay.
out.
I do the same thing. It's
Yeah,
crazy. Yeah, it's crazy how we automatically go there, you know?
yeah.
Yeah.
Because I love food so much. Like I'm such a food fan, and I get like, I don't drink, and so for me, food is a real like pleasure in life. So to deprive myself of like one of my guilty pleasures is having like a McDonald's. Like I love McDonald's. So every now and again, I'm just like, I need to have a McDonald's. And I think then when I do that, I know I'm going to struggle with it, but I really enjoy it in that moment. So yeah, it's whatever works for you in your lifestyle, I think.
Yes. And if you're thinking about it constantly, you're just gonna just do it and just
Yeah,
and
exactly.
just
Yeah.
deal with it. Yeah. Yes, it's such a hard one.
Yeah. And it's weird because there's part of me that, so if I'm having a bad day with my vestibular stuff, I really love if I can pinpoint in my head what it's because of. There's nothing more frustrating than when something happens out of the blue and you're like, but I've done nothing
I
wrong in
was
inverted
good
commas. There's
today.
nothing I was so good. Whereas if I know that, okay, I had like I don't know, a big piece of cake yesterday, I'm like, it's because of the cake. Or if I'm due on my period, I'm like, oh, I'm due on my period. Like it's lovely to be able to put it down to something, because I think a lot of the vestibular stuff, you don't have an answer for it, and that's one of the most frustrating things, is it's you don't understand why. Like, why is my body doing this? Why am I feeling like this today? So when you've got a thing that you can be like, oh, it's because of that, it's really like on a mental level, it's like really reassuring.
Right. It's for sure. I will tell you though, keep trying things, maybe because our bodies do change. I will tell you, I'm able
Mm,
to have a couple things that I wasn't able to have at the beginning. And
hmm.
also, just a couple months ago, I found a new trigger in pink grapefruit citrus. I can't have. It's a
Oh,
migraine.
wow. Okay.
No, it's such a bummer because I really love
Yeah.
ruby red grapefruit. We get it here in Florida, so it's like
Yeah.
not happy.
It's always the good stuff, isn't it? The stuff that you really, really crave or want. You always think,
I
oh.
know it stinks. And then almonds are a weird one that I have a trigger to, and sometimes they
Okay.
say they're supposed to be good for migraines.
Mm,
No, not here.
yeah. Everyone's so different though. And I think that's
No.
another struggle with the vestibular stuff, is that people obviously will go to each other vestibular patients, and go, okay, well, what do you do? But it's so unique to each individual person that there's kind of an umbrella of things that you can try, but you need to find your unique pattern of things. So that's why it's so hard, I think.
I completely agree. Is there any way we can support you in the community?
I don't know. I've not been asked that before. No, I mean, it just probably just in terms of like with my yoga and stuff, I'd love to get the word out there about not just my yoga, but I think yoga in general. I think like you mentioned earlier, it's something which a lot of vestibular patients would shy away from. But actually a lot of the vestibular therapists and stuff will say, here are some things you can do, yoga being one of them. And then you
Right.
think, wait, there's no way I could do yoga. So I think kind of spreading the word about the reasons for why yoga is so amazing for vestibular patients and that it can be made really accessible, I think is like one of the big things, because it's not like any other physical exercise. It can put your body into a state of healing and of reset. And I think not a lot of other physical activities can do that. It can definitely be good for your health and your fitness, but yoga is very different because it's very it's a very healing practice. So I think the more vestibular patients know about the benefits of yoga and massage, I think that would really help, because that's one of my biggest things, I think.
Absolutely. Well, we might have to figure out the hour difference and do
Mm-hmm.
a live yoga class and get a
Yeah, I'd love
communication.
to.
That would be so fantastic. I would
Yeah, that
love
would be
that.
amazing. Yeah, no, I'd
All
love to
around
do
the
that.
world. Yeah,
Yeah, amazing.
absolutely. Well, before we go, I wanted to do a whirlwind questions, which are just
Mm-hmm.
questions, just whatever pops in your mind. And
Yeah.
there's no wrong answer.
Okay.
All right, let's see. In one word, what has living with a vestibular disorder taught you?
Strength. Mm,
And fill in the
yeah.
blank. Vestibular disorders are.
Um, Challenging.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
And you feel your symptoms are coming on and you're trying to be brave. What's the first thing that you do?
If I sort of, what would I do to help my symptoms? Um, Sit down and take a deep breath. Yeah.
What is one thing that people usually get wrong about you?
Um, that I'm not struggling with a chronic illness, I would say. Yeah, it's people are very surprised to know that it hasn't gone away. But my attitude's changed, so you wouldn't think that I was struggling so much. Yeah.
That's for me as well. They think, oh, you look so great. And
Yeah,
then,
because obviously you do all these things that are amazing for your health, and then you start glowing, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, you look so well," and but
yeah,
inside you can still really be struggling. So yeah.
that's for sure. What is your favorite vestibular friendly meal?
I would say having something kind of plain but still with flavor. So I'd always have like rice, vegetables, and some sort of like vegan meat replacement, or like tofu or something like that. Something plain, something that's easy to digest but still has a bit of flavor.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, they
So
have certain brands that don't have like loads of like additives and stuff that are fairly clean. So those tend to be like my go-tos really. Yeah.
do you have a favorite book that has inspired you over the years?
Oh my gosh, I've got so many books. I'm just looking at my bookshelf now. Yeah, because I'm very much a like a non-fiction reader. So I love reading stuff where I'm learning. Self-development is
Me
like
too.
is
I
my
am a
thing.
self junkie.
Yeah, yeah. I think a lot of people are, because you go on this path of like healing and learning about yourself, and all of a sudden you opened up to this brand new world of life-changing stuff that you can implement in your life.
I know.
But I think I'm trying to think. I mean, a recent one that I'm really enjoying is a book called Manifest by Roxy Nafu. I think she's called Roxy Nafusi. And it's about manifesting generally in life, but like how you can put it into practice in on all areas of your life, including your health and well-being. So I'm like really big into like my law of attraction and like energy and stuff like that. So I think anything that's kind of speaks to me on that like more spiritual level is yeah, that's normally works really well for me.
Nice. Do you listen to podcasts?
I do. I don't listen as much as I should could.
Yeah, there's a couple
Because
that are really great out there that are like
yeah,
that.
I do like a podcast, but just yeah, anything that's to do with self-development is completely my sort of thing. Anything that I can implement and make my life better,
Yeah.
healthier is definitely my thing. Yeah.
There's one called Manifestation Babe. She's
Oh,
really
okay.
awesome. She's really great. And then Ed Milet, I'll have to send them to
Okay.
you. They are
Yeah,
just,
please do.
when I'm walking, I'll plug it in, or if I'm driving long distance, I'll listen to it, and I just walk away with just lightness and just aha moments. And I love that every time. So
Yeah, I think that sort of stuff can be really powerful. Like I will every day, I listen to like affirmations, like when I'm getting ready, and it's like ones that you repeat afterwards. And I think those sorts of things are you don't sort of realize that they're having an impact, but then over time you
mhm.
can feel the benefits of it. So I'm a big like advocate of anything like that. I think it's really powerful. Yeah.
Yeah, and you said something hugely important, that you have to verbally say it out loud. And it's
Hmm.
just something about saying that it's more empowering. And
Hmm.
yeah, it's we have
Yeah.
the same thing here.
Yeah,
So
and the gratitude stuff is, I mean, every day I write down 10 things that I'm grateful for, and a lot of the time I try and focus on physical gratitude. So, you
mm,
know, I'm grateful for my ears because they allow me to hear music and my friends' conversations, and you know, I go
oh,
through every part of my body and think, okay, well, I do struggle with this, but how lucky am I to have my legs that allow me to walk and explore
love
and
that.
do all these things. So I think that combined with affirmations can be really powerful.
Mm. Well, that leads me to my next question. Do you have a morning slash bedtime routine, ritual routine of self-care?
Yeah, I'm really big on my on my routines. I'm such a creature of habit. So I try not to go on my phone for like the first hour of the day. And I'll do a 5 minute meditation, which I really believe that everyone has got time for. I think 5 minutes is a speck in your day. So I think if you can bring even a 1 minute meditation,
Right.
there's loads on YouTube. So I'll do a short meditation. I'll do a list of 10 things that I'm grateful for. I try and read like 5 pages of a book. So it's not very much, but it's still ticking it along. And then yeah, then just kind of get myself up and hydrated and taking my supplements, doing my affirmations. So I just feel like the days when I don't do all of that, I have a really unproductive day. Whereas the days that I get all that in, and it doesn't take me very long to do, when I do all of that, I kind of have got a spring in my step. So yeah, that's the morning. And then in the evening, I've kind of got some similar things. Like I'll put my Cephali on, you know, the little migraine
Oh yeah.
device. So I wear that in an evening. I have a Shakti mat. I don't know if you have Shakti
Oh
mats.
no,
Like,
it's on my want list.
oh, it's so
I can't
honestly,
wait till
it's
I get it. Yes.
oh my gosh. So that for me is like I'll tend to lay on that and I might read a few pages of a book, or that might be when I listen to a podcast. But if you
Yeah.
haven't got a Shakti mat, it's so good. I compare it to getting into a hot bath. Your body just kind
Oh,
of goes, ah.
oh yeah. Oh yes. Then I'll have to. We're living in an RV now, and I miss my bath so bad. So I'll have to do that. I'll have to get that fixed.
Oh,
So,
yes, do. I mean, it's painful at first, but it after over time, like it becomes really enjoyable.
oh, that's so awesome. Oh, I'm glad you mentioned that, because now it's like refired my interest in getting one. It's just on my wish list. Oh,
Yes, I definitely recommend one. I love mine.
what is an activity that completely relaxes you?
Teaching yoga and doing massage. Um, my mind can't be anywhere but with the people that I am with in that room. So I cannot, if I'm guiding somebody through a yoga practice, there's no way I can be worrying about anything else. And it's the same with a massage, is because I do relaxation massages, I have relaxing music on, the lights are dim. And again, I just go into like a trance state. And I think anything where you are in that kind of trance, whether it's teaching yoga or doing a massage, that's when I find myself completely switching off. So, and I think that's why I'm so keen to be doing it for my full-time job, because how amazing would it be to be in that state all the
Oh
time
my
throughout the
goodness,
week.
it's awesome. Yes, it's great. What movie could you watch over and over and never tire of?
The Lion King,
Aw, the new one or the original?
definitely. I'm a proper kind of like Disney. The original, like the
The
old
original.
one, the cartoon one.
Yes.
Yeah, it reminds me of being a kid, and just, yeah, I was just obsessed with Simba when I was little. So it's like very familiar, very comforting, makes
Aw,
me cry still every time I watch it.
oh,
But
that's so
yeah, that would
sweet.
be the one.
Aw, that is great. What tool is your most used tool out of your vestibular toolbox?
My blue light blocking glasses are like, that's the first thing I reach for. Followed by my cephaly. If I'm having like a bad day, or I've got a lot of pain, or even the dizziness, I find it helps with that. So I think those are my two main things.
Yeah, I think Alicia talks about the cephaly a lot, the Dizzy Cook.
Hmm.
I've
Yes,
never
yeah.
used
I think
it,
that's
but
where I first saw them, actually. Yeah,
cool.
it's really, I don't think it helps everybody. I think it's very, like I was saying earlier, very unique to the person using it. But um for me, I love that it can just, for me, it takes the edge off. So there's like a
And what does it
preventative
do,
mode.
Emma? What does it do exactly? 'Cause
Um
I'm not familiar
my
with it.
my understanding, and I might butcher this, but so I apologize if anybody actually knows the full ins and outs of it, but it kind of stimulates, I think, is it the vagus nerve that kind of runs along your
Okay.
forehead, which I think is what's responsible for migraine symptoms. I think it works a little bit like a TENS machine, so it
Okay.
helps kind of relax that area, and then allows everything else to calm down. Because one of the kind of knock-on effects of it is that it can make you quite sleepy.
Does it
So
have
I
a
think
slight
it,
vibration?
yeah, so it's a little bit painful. So
Okay.
when it's similar to the Shakti mat, actually, when you first start using it, it's like, oh my gosh, this is really intense. And then
Right.
now I put it on and I'm just like walking around the house.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, it's a really, I mean, it's a little bit expensive, but for me, it was like a health investment, because it charges, and it's like something I'll have with me, that I know, right, I can sit for 20 minutes and I'll put it on, and I'll just close my eyes, and it just, yeah, I feel like it takes the edge off,
Mm,
definitely.
that sounds lovely. I'm sitting here with, I woke up with a migraine this morning and
Oh no.
it's muted right now. And I'm thinking, oh, that sounds heavenly.
Yeah,
So I'll have to look into that for sure.
it is. It's really nice. It's really helpful.
Well, I know that you practice gratitude. And my final question is, what are you extremely grateful for today?
Oh my gosh. I just find it really hard, because I'm at a point in my life where I'm genuinely so grateful for everything, because I've gone along this journey of, finding my own happiness and finding my peace and acceptance with life with a vestibular disorder. And I'm genuinely just so grateful to be here and be happy and
Yeah.
be in a position where that I never thought I'd be in. So I think every day I'm just grateful for waking up and feeling like I can go out and achieve some of my goals, because it was didn't feel possible 5 years ago. So yeah, I'm very grateful for that, I think.
Well, I'm so happy we finally connected and then I
Yeah,
learned a
me
little bit about your
too.
story. And
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to seeing your Life Rebalanced
yes,
video as
same.
well.
I can't wait. And I will reach out to you about the online yoga class. I think we can get enough people together and do that as a group. That would be fantastic. I would love
Yeah,
that. So
yeah,
we
that
will
sounds amazing. I'm
definitely,
definitely up for that.
yes, yes. So we'll definitely be in touch. Thank you so much, Emma, for coming on
No,
today.
thank you so much for having me. Like I absolutely, I love sharing my story, because like I said before, if there was some way for me to have done this a few years ago, it mentally would have been so helpful. So I'm always so happy to give whatever I can back to the vestibular community. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Emma. This was such a special treat today. You can practice yoga with Emma at the link below. And if you happen to be lucky enough to live near Sheffield in the UK, be sure to book a massage with her too. Thank you, Emma, for all you do for the vestibular community and for sharing so much of your story with us. If you had a takeaway or something that resonated with you today, please reach out on social media and tag us. If you haven't left a review yet, let us know how you'd like the podcast, or any constructive feedback is welcome. I absolutely love hearing from you and knowing what is resonating with you in the community. Thank you so much for listening. If you would like to reach out to Emma or myself, please see the show notes below. For more information on vestibular disorders, please visit the VITA website at www.vestibular.org. Now remember to love yourself, do the hard work, lean on this beautiful community, and lastly, believe that healing is possible. We'll see you next week, warriors.